Hey, welcome to another episode of Breaking Protocol from the Razzle Dazzle Show, our ongoing miniseries where we break down key updates and design questions straight from the development of Shade Protocol. These episodes are built around the game's community engagement series, Devs Ask You, where Kendall and the team not only show what's changing, but invite fans to shape the journey with them. Kendall recently put this DAU out to the community, asking players directly what kinds of game music resonate with them, and what might best capture the essence of Shade Protocol. He laid out where the team is right now musically, a balance between digital and real instruments, some synth layers, and an adaptive soundtrack that shifts between exploration and combat. Be sure to follow us and Little Legendary on our socials and YouTube channel, and be sure to join the Shade Protocol Discord server to follow new DAUs, vote in polls, and share your voice directly with the dev team. Links to everything will be in the description down below, and with all that being said, it's Razzle Dazzle time! So, Kendall, when you put this DAU out, what were you hoping to learn from the community about their musical tastes and how that will maybe interact with the game's overall musical vibe?
Definitely not what we got. I'm telling you, like, we put this out and it was insane. The amount of, for context for everyone that's just listening, we have our Discord. In our Discord, I go there almost every other day, every 2 days, something like that, 3 days sometimes, and I put some update of what we're doing, and then we ask questions to the community. So we do these things called version zeros, which are, then I am not really doing an update. I am mostly asking a question, and then version 1, which is what we learned from that, and we keep going like that. So we did a version 0 on music, and it just became this insane entire community just putting links over links over links over links over links of YouTube music, and it's spectacular. But then I have a little obsession that I like to respond to everybody and go over everything, and it took me days to, not hours, days to go over every song and listen to it and write back to people. And I don't know if I got to all of it, but I try every once in a while. I go back and I listen to more and more and more and try to get a little bit of sense of what people are suggesting. Because it feels right to first to learn from other people's musical taste, and second to see what people call spectacular. The range is very, very wide, very wide. So some people in our community really love retro music, and some other people really love this orchestral vibe. Some other people look like really hyper music. Some other people like something more like lo-fi, and it's a very difficult thing to mesh. And I don't think we'll ever be able to make everyone happy, but I think we can find a place that will make people feel that the world makes great sense to them. So I guess to answer the question, we expected to get some, I wouldn't say direction. We're not making a game by committee. I think nobody wants to play that game, right? People want to play a game that's inspired by their creators.
Of course.
But we want to get inside a solution space that meshes with our community, right? We don't want to be so far from what people want that we end up making schlop, right? So we don't want that. And I think we are sort of close. We are a bit distant in terms of what we can produce. Some of the things that people, suggested, like near automata level stuff, which I love, but I don't think we can afford to do. And not only economically, right? I'm more talking as in time. That's talent that you have to recruit, and then composing that needs to be done. It's a lot of stuff that needs to be done. Then you have to hire an orchestra. It's a complex thing to get done. Do we want to do orchestral music? Definitely. That's what probably what Kickstarter would be about, trying to make the game about more than what it is today. But in our current state, we do have an orchestral composer, a classically trained composer, that's a spectacular guy named Dylan, that he makes all of our music. And it's not done in with an orchestra right now, but everything that you hear, it's made by us. It's really spectacular work.
Yeah, I listened to the track from the trailer because I have to edit it within our the intro to these episodes and stuff like that, and the social media stuff. And once I was able to listen to it outside of or separate from all the sound effects from the trailer, I was incredibly blown away by how just that is sounding so far, and that's already giving a feel for what to expect in the game. And now something you guys are doing, it's very interesting because you mentioned there's all these things, right? All this retro vibes, the lo-fi, the technical, the orchestral, like there's all these elements that Shade Protocol is dancing in between. And clearly with the music is something that's incredibly heavily infused within this game, one way or another. And something that's straight off the bat, what you can immediately tell is a lot of the mechanics, all the weapons within the games are instruments as well. And they also they don't blend, but like they also channel different forms of music, orchestral stuff with the violin. There's metal or just rock by itself with the guitar. There's classical, I guess, with the flutes. I mean, that can also be orchestral kind of. So like you're already here, there's a lot of balancing, right? And even talking about an adaptive soundtrack system, mixing all of these things, I'm sure is incredibly challenging. So kudos to Dylan for his work. How do you see that balancing exploration versus combat in a Metroidvania that's, not always super fast paced? Because from my understanding, you can take your time and really live in this world. Like this is supposed to be a living, breathing world that you guys are creating. How's all that balancing going down?
So it's definitely difficult, more than we expected at the beginning of it, but that's part of the theme, that's part of the core of the game, so we have to get that right. And it's kind of our love letter to the players that, they might not even be able to tell at the beginning, but it is definitely a big component of what we want to achieve, which is true immersion. Like you're playing the game and you feel like you're in this place, and it's not all the time like this. If you're just standing still, you shouldn't be hearing like this insane, like hyper song that is like telling you like, go, 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 you have to go. Like that's not necessarily what we're aiming for. That doesn't mean that there won't be moments where that's the case, right? But the idea is an adaptive soundtrack. It's a fancy words to say we will have multiple tracks per area.
Right.
And you have like I don't like to use these words because they're incorrect, but imagine you have like a low and a high intensity track. Even though that's actually true, but sometimes that might not be the case, right? One might be a track that is like the track, and there might be another one that's like more involved. There are more instruments, there are more going on, it feels more active. So we would, for now, call them low and high intensity. So you are in let's say, the first area that we are making right now for our demo of Bastion Suna. It's a beautiful area. You're inside this ginormous robot. There's an entire city inside of it. Just feels fantastical and, just so futuristic and beautiful. It's just a spectacular place. You are going to get a track that represents kind of what you're seeing, but whenever you go into combat, right, an enemy detects you or you attack an enemy, the track is going to, pretty much level up, right? So it's going to go from its baseline that is more tranquil and more representative of what you're seeing, which is still like active, but it's not like hurry, 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 into a more, I wouldn't say stressful, but definitely energetic track, right, where it's much more representative of combat. This is not something that, I wouldn't say this is rare. I mean, I think the thing is that most players that are listening to this might say, "Oh, but I mean, this is not uncommon, right? We don't see it in every game, but it's not uncommon." And it's mostly because the games that we play tend to be the games that have the production value to get us to these kind of things. But this is, when you take about the there's 100,000 games or more on Steam. I don't even think like 5% of them do adaptive soundtracks. So we're talking about something that it's done in the games that are in the zeitgeist, but it is difficult to do, and it's definitely not common for an indie studio to get it right. We're going to try our very best. We really think we can do it, and I think it's going to be great. But it's not just shifting from low intensity to high intensity. It's also making sure that the sounds that our instruments make don't, overwhelm the tracks. It's making sure that whenever we're blending things, like maybe there's an opposite. There's from low intensity to like somber and sad, like maybe in certain moments. So things like that we have to aim to get right. But it's definitely part of the genome of Shade Protocol right now.
You've listed some of your favorite inspirations earlier, but also in your initial interview episode here on the show, you mentioned that you even have a playlist titled Shade Protocol. And this was even like when you were still like coming up with the game and all that stuff, taking inspirations from it. One, I think it would be cool, like in the future, if you were ever comfortable sharing what that playlist was. If you guys ever do a Patreon, if you are subscribed to a certain tier, then you get access to this private playlist. That would be cool. But the real question, to further along with like these favorite inspirations you have, like Nier Automata, Mega Man X, Clair Obscur, Final Fantasy Tactics, what is it about these soundtracks that feels relevant to Shade Protocol's identity?
Very difficult question, because I think like the identity of Shade Protocol as a game, it's closer to I mean, we're not doing the same vibe, so this is where the question might get lost a little bit, but we are trying to do something closer to like what Ender Lilies did with the soundtrack in reference to their theme than what maybe Nier Automata did with their soundtrack, right? So I'll clarify this. So Nier Automata tried to do very exciting and definitely adaptive soundtrack in relation to like the action that's going on in the game and the theme of the vocals, all that stuff. It's there as an icing on the cake of this already great theme, right? Of a world, kind of, at odds with technology. But if you really listen to the soundtrack, it's not that it's definitely not disconnected. It's really good and really valuable to the game, but it's definitely like Ender Lilies did something much more intense in terms of what it's trying to do for the game. Like if you go to the village, right? If you go to this place in the Lilies and you get to hear that track, the sadness in this track is necessary for this village to feel as somber and as tragic as it feels, right? So there's one version which is more, can we make the game well themed and then on top of that put such a good soundtrack on top of it that it makes the player hyper engaged with what's going on, which is what Nier Automata did? Or do we make a game where the soundtrack is a part of the story? And I think Nier does that in certain moments. I'm not this is not a criticism of any of the games. It's saying there's two different approaches that are very successful and are very valuable. So for us, we want to be closer to the Ender Lilies vibe, not vibe, let me clarify that, to the implementation, which is the music has to do with what's going on and it's more related to what's happening. However, we have a different vibe. The game is not completely somber, and kind of, you're not as lonely as maybe Lily is in that game. So now, how do we make a world that feels nostalgic, right? That feels that there's something missing, right? And in that case, it's humanity. So what does that look like? I think that's where we want to go. It's very difficult, but when you to answer the question from the origin, when you think of a game like, for example, Final Fantasy Tactics, that's a game that in its original game, the moments where you're fighting against, like, for example, some of the the elements of the church and whatnot, the track that you're hearing, it has some excitement to it, but it also has like bells and it has all these sense of like there's this wonder also mixed with this idea that you might be in a church, and it's soft. It's not something that they're it's overly done there, but you can sense that it's not normal, that it's not like just a normal fight that you just had against a bunch of like gremlins, these chocobo things that you fight outside. It's not that fight. Like you're in a fight against something more sinister and more evoked. That I want that to come across, and not all games get that done. Like a lot of games would prefer to put a track that is just matching the excitement of what's going on. We would like to do that plus a little more to try to get themed right, and we'll try our best, right? I think Clair Obscur did it incredibly well. Beating that is like I don't think that's a realistic thing for most indie studios to do, but we all should try, because that is an incredible, what is it, a masterpiece of a soundtrack. So we will try our very best to get something themed, and at the same time evoking of what's happening in the game at that time.
Clearly, music can transform a game, and for Shade Protocol, it's clear the soundtrack will be as carefully crafted as the gameplay itself. Whether it's the sweeping emotion of Nier, the guitar-driven energy of Mega Man X, or something entirely new, Kendall and the team are aiming for music that doesn't just fill space, it tells the story. Shade Protocol continues to be shaped not just by its creators, but by its community. Whether it's refining how story is told or rethinking player immersion, every DAU opens the door to a deeper collaboration. This has been another episode of Breaking Protocol from the Razzle Dazzle Show. Want to help shape what Shade Protocol becomes? Join the Shade Protocol Discord server to follow new DAUs, vote in polls, and share your voice with the dev team directly. And if you like this breakdown, then stay tuned for more spotlights and interviews with Kendall right here on the Razzle Dazzle Show. Remember, the future of Amiria is still being written. We'll catch you on the next one.